Well, it seemed like we were getting some major hints, and it has apparently happened. The Browns are choosing Brook Park to build their brand new multi-billion-dollar dome stadium with renderings and the official release coming supposedly within the next few weeks. We would anticipate possibly sometime in the preseason if it goes according to schedule. $3.6 billion stadium and development to be revealed. The cost of the stadium, at least according to some of the rumors that I've seen, it's been around 2.4 billion, so the entire development could be around 3.6. In the coming weeks, the owners of the Browns will reveal their plans to build a new $3.5 billion dome stadium and associated development in the Cleveland suburb of Brook Park. According to public sector sources familiar with their plans, Jimmy and Dee Haslam have their capital funding identified for the stadium and a small first phase of development. The cost of the new dome stadium and the provision of about 20,000 parking spaces almost entirely in surface lots is estimated to be 2.2 billion. Well, that's interesting. They're going with that many parking spots. It's not surprising considering this is a suburb, so there's not a ton of accessible public transportation, although there is some with it being right next to the airport, and that should alleviate some of their issues in terms of the amount of cars that need to be in the parking lots. But it's all going to be surface level, and that leads me to believe that that original release of that aerial kind of map photo is probably pretty accurate when you look at that with all of the parking surrounding the stadium, and then kind of above the stadium right next to the airport would be the development and the district there, which I would expect to be mainly hotels, restaurants, bars, things like that. But certainly I would imagine there's going to be at least one hotel built within there. The airport does have a hotel that recently closed. I do think the airport's going to be getting a new hotel, and supposedly that airport as well, I covered it a few months ago, possibly getting a $3 billion renovation over the span of 10 years. So there could be a ton of construction in and around Brook Park, right next to Cleveland. The airport technically is in Cleveland. It is Cleveland Hopkins, but it's like on the way southern outskirts of the city. And this is big news. And I do want to reiterate, you can see the one rendering I have upscaled it. Originally, it was like very blurry. It was like a leaked rendering. I thought we were going to get more. We haven't, but supposedly the official reveal and probably 20 to 30 different renderings and different photos, not only of the exterior, but also the interior. It'll be interesting to even see the seating color, because obviously Cleveland Brown Stadium with the orange seats, I wonder what they'll choose to go with. Will they go with maybe a darker orange? Will they go with a neutral color? I would like them to, stick with the orange, but I do wonder how weird it would look inside of a dome and how much natural light gets let in. When it comes to the natural light, the roof style that I think they are choosing just based off of the initial renderings would be something similar to US Bank Stadium in Minnesota that was recently built. That's known as like one of the top 5 stadiums in the NFL. So that's what I would imagine. The roof of it is like half translucent, and that's what I would imagine they're going to do with the new Cleveland Browns Stadium. Personally, when you look at kind of the how the roof shapes, and it's an interesting design. It's cool. It's different than the typical translucent roof stadiums we've seen with Tennessee, Chicago, and other teams as well. But in general, apparently, according to some of the sources, Cleveland's offer that I covered, which was around $460 million, was really just symbolic. They wanted to put something out there just to show that they at least had an offer. And I would imagine when they demolish Cleveland Browns Stadium, which probably will happen by 2029 or 2030, because supposedly if this actually does get revealed and they've got the money for this construction will start sometime next year. And of course, in terms of the construction process, it's going to be a lot easier than a Chicago Bears situation where they're building their stadium right next to the other one. So you're going to be dealing with a big construction site right next to your home stadium. This is obviously in a whole nother city, so you're going to have no construction problems. It's going to be very easy for the Browns to move from Cleveland to Brook Park into a brand new stadium and developed area. And I would imagine this will basically guarantee the Browns at least one Super Bowl. Normally that's how it works. Obviously, seems like everyone's trying to get new stadiums, trying to get Super Bowls. It's going to be very hard to do that, but I do think the Browns are definitely going to be getting one, and we're going to be needing to see more upgrades from teams like Tampa Bay if they really want to keep hosting Super Bowls in terms of their stadium. So it'll be interesting to kind of see the arms race in terms terms of that. I do think Tampa Bay will be renovating their stadium. I've discussed that several times in the past, but just in general, I think they'll at least give the Browns one Super Bowl. They're going to get a Final Four. They're going to get all the big-time concerts and things like that, and this does work, and it can work because of the proximity to the main airport in Cleveland. So when it comes to this, it really doesn't surprise me. It seemed like it was trending this way, and we're still just waiting on the renderings and the total cost, again, around $3.6 billion. The Bears situation, I think, is $4.7 billion. Both stadiums, the Browns' new stadium and the Bears' new stadium, are right around $2.5 billion. And then the surrounding developed area, I guess, would be the additional $1 billion if that's what they're including. And I also imagine, and it's been reported, that when they do demolish Cleveland Browns Stadium, it will make it a lot easier for people to develop and invest into that land. And I would imagine it to be developed a lot easier if that does end up happening. So Cleveland Browns Stadium, built like in 1999, it's only going to last about 27, 28 years, it looks like. It's not totally surprising. Again, this is kind of what we expected. Would they have liked to keep the stadium in Cleveland? I mean, possibly, maybe a different area in Cleveland, but there's really just nowhere to build surrounding Progressive Field or Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse. So this was, I guess, the next best thing for them in terms of now. Apparently, it's come out also that Haslam does have an agreement to acquire 176 acres in the new area. Right now, it's just an abandoned, basically big field with a bunch of piles of dirt and stone. I actually did do a video of me going there and seeing the site because it is, I mean, relatively near where I live right now. And yeah, there's just basically nothing there. They did build like an Amazon warehouse randomly. It's like to the far north outside the premises, and there is still a Ford plant there that would be pretty far away from the stadium, probably near where the parking would end. I would imagine if they do keep that Ford plant, and I'm guessing they will. There was another Ford plant that was even bigger that got demolished back like 5 or 6 years ago, and there was a casting plant in the middle that got demolished about a decade ago or so. So that's where the stadium would go. The aerial shot you can see via Google Maps. And right now it's just a bunch of abandoned land. It's been that way for several years now. There is still technically a for sale sign out there. But again, apparently Haslam has a purchasing agreement. I would imagine that will become official as more of this news breaks. Haslam did say he wanted to do what the fans wanted, and to be fair, I mean, pretty much all the fans want a dome. There are a few, sticklers that say, no, it should be played outside football. This is Cleveland. This is hard-nosed. But unfortunately, that's just going away just in general now as we move into the mid-2020s. People want everything climate controlled. They don't want to deal with the terrible weather. I mean, it was just so unlikely that they would invest $1 billion into renovating Cleveland Browns Stadium when it's very hard to use late in the year for really even Browns games because of how close it is to Lake Erie and how brutal it can be for at least 3 or 4 games a year. It just makes no sense to invest that kind of money. So then you're stuck with Cleveland Browns Stadium for another 15 to 20 years with no roof in the same area, even if you renovate it. It just really didn't make sense. So not surprised by this, and we will see when they end up revealing the renderings. Normally they do a big reveal. The Bears did that, so I would imagine maybe they'll set a date or something within the next week or two to reveal what the potential new I mean, at this point, I don't think it's going to be potential. I think it is the new Cleveland Browns Stadium, what it's going to be looking like in Brook Park. But either way, guys, that is going to do it for this video. Make sure you follow me on X. Link to that's always in the description.